Alright everyone, I thought I'd make a video introducing one of the new features that the agent has, and this one is a specialized agent helping you to estimate fair probabilities by using Bayesian inference and some very basic math like the chain rule to estimate probabilities of polymarket markets that can be broken down into a chain of events. But before I explain everything, I'll just show you. So I was looking around for a good market to show you this, and I saw we have one that is fairly interesting right now because Microstrategy sells any Bitcoin by December 31st, 2026. And what this does is just finds the market on Polymarket, and then it fills out these criteria. You can also make your own. It doesn't have to be a Polymarket. You can use any probability market. Or you can just make your own probability model together with AI. All right, so this is interesting because right now Polymarket assigns this a 23% probability. I think that is still very high based on the model that I already implemented and I will do with you now. Now note this was 24-25% earlier and has dropped a little bit, and I still think it's fairly high. So the way we can make this model or make a guesstimate or estimate what the fair value of this probability is by thinking about what has to happen for Microstrategy to sell. To think about what has to happen for Microstrategy to sell any Bitcoin by the end of this year. And there can be a number of reasons, obviously, but I think one of the easiest way to do it is to think about the price. So I read earlier that the CEO of MicroStrategy said that Bitcoin will have to drop to about 8,000, that they will be forced to sell any Bitcoin based on the balance sheet. And I looked on Polymarket and we have Bitcoin dip 2026. We have a market that says that Bitcoin has to dip to 5,000 or 10,000. So Polymarket assigns this a 5% probability. Note that earlier this was 6%. Obviously this fluctuates, and that is one of the opportunities that you have, the volatility, right? But so we say that if Bitcoin dips to 10,000, then MicroStrategy will sell any Bitcoin. Obviously this is false. This cannot be the only reason why, but it helps us to reason through it, okay? So this has to happen for MicroStrategy to sell any Bitcoin. Now think about what has to happen for Bitcoin to dip to $10,000. Well, Bitcoin has to go to something above 10,000, somewhere between 70,000, which is the price right now, and 10,000, right? So we can do this whole game again. And we can check for Bitcoin to go for the other markets that we have over here. So there's one, just at random. I guess the 25,000 market seems fairly usable. And this has to happen before Bitcoin hits 10,000. So we have to rearrange this probability, the chain of it, and I will explain in a minute why and how this works in math. And here on the right hand side, you actually see parts of it because this is a fairly large condition, but these are conditional probabilities, and that is just basically the chain rule. So for MicroStrategy to sell any Bitcoin by December 31st, Bitcoin will have to dip to 10,000. And we say before then, Bitcoin has to dip to 25,000. So we multiplied the probability of Bitcoin dipping to 10,000, given that it has already dipped to 25,000. And this should then maybe not be 5% anymore, because we assume that it has already dipped to 25,000. So the probability is likely much higher now that Bitcoin goes to 10,000 than it is right now. So we have to estimate and adjust this. Before then, we just add one more market in between. So this will help us just illustrate this a little bit better. All right, so 45,031. Note that this one has already been true, so you can see that this probability is 1. Um, and we add one that has not yet happened, just for sake of illustration. 55,000. All right. So will Bitcoin dip to 65,000? This happened yesterday. It even went to 59,000. So this is true. You can see that the probability is 100%. You should not change this. This was filled out by Polymarket. You can unlink and add your own probabilities, and this is what we will do. All right, so this is a chain of probabilities, and all of these things have to happen in order for Microstrategy to sell any Bitcoin. Now, this has happened already, and this market is resolved. It should update as resolved, as you can see. So now you cannot edit it anymore. And we can ask AI to help us reason through some of these priors. So we now change this to beta distributions. These are just general probability distributions, and the reason why we want to do this instead of point estimates, which are also okay for back of the envelope, I think that's a very good way to just make some quick math. But we can use distributions because we want to model uncertainty, right? Because these markets fluctuate, and they can be as high as you can say that the chance, you cannot be 100% sure of the probability, right? And the probability itself has some uncertainty. You are not sure that the chance that Bitcoin goes to 55,000 is really 19%. I personally think by now it should be much higher, that within the year, right? I mean, it's almost more than 12 months from now. So we say that it could be as high as, say, 80%. I find that fairly reasonable. It's probably somewhere around, I'd say maybe 50-50, because we already went to 59,000, and actually on the Wenger up and down in Bitcoin markets, you can actually check the fair probability of that. So you can actually make this a really, really good estimate. But just so we don't spend too much time on this, I just make this without checking. All right. So, and it should be at least 20% chance, okay? And this will give you a beta distribution, and we use a beta distribution because that is, I don't want to say convention, but beta distribution make things easy for inferences just because of they have a property called the conjugate prior is also a beta, which means that in the last video I explained how you have prior beliefs, and you get some new information, you get some evidence, you have some new knowledge, and your knowledge itself, your new belief updates, right? So we have priors and posteriors, and the nice thing about beta distributions is that once you have the prior and the update and you get the posterior, it will still be a beta distribution. So you can do this again and again and again, and your code or your math doesn't have to change, right? You just change some variables and that's it. You update. And this is just a very nice property to have, and that makes it very easy to update and model probabilities of probabilities. All right, so we set the range for the 25,000, and I guess we keep the 10,000 also at the range, and then you have to update. So the probability that Bitcoin goes to 55,000, I say, is 50%. So now that it has to hit 55,000, what chance do you assign for Bitcoin to go further, given that it's already hit 55,000? What is the chance that it goes to 25,000? So that's roughly a 50% drop from where it is. And we can check how often has this happened, right? It just happened before, and within a 12 months time span. So this is maybe more likely than most people would think. But at the same time, it could also just grow another 50 or double, like at the same reasoning, right? So I would say if it's 55,000, we might have a, say, 15% chance. But it could be as high as another 50% chance that it will drop another 50%. And the low should be maybe 10%. I say it's at least 10% likely that if you've gone to 55,000, that you will go to 25,000, right? It also depends on the time span, right? Of how much time is left, the geopolitical situation, everything else. But this is just to help you make an estimate and reason through the market and just understand how what you're actually doing when you're playing on Polymarket. All right. So and then we have given that it has gone to 55 and has gone to 25. And what is the probability that it will go to 10,000? So that also depends on the time, of course. But I think, me personally, if these two things have happened already, and there's still some time left uh, in 2026, then the chance that it will go further to 10,000 is just really extremely likely because something has to be really, really, really wrong. And I think this then the probability that it will go to 10,000, given that it's already gone to 25,000 this year, is at least 50-50, right? Is probably around 50-50 and at least a quarter of a percent, and maybe I wouldn't say it's super likely, maybe 60% at most. All right, so now we have the chain rule. This has happened. This can happen. If this happens, then this will be 1, right? So then this will just be 1 and this probability will go up. But of course, it will not be 1. We will just set this here again. And so this is the model that we have. This is just some sampling that goes on in the back, and we have could be as high as 9% and as low as 0%. And this can also be very likely. It really depends on the probability itself, and these are the distributions that we have. And I just realized that because of my face, you do not see everything here. And I will show you that you can add AI, which will try to reason through these steps for you. And here on, you cannot see this either. And here on the right side, we have the priors, and you can also ask AI to help you find more conditions. And you can ask AI to challenge your reasoning here based on, well, on the other markets it finds and the web searches that it does. Okay, so this is the steps that after it suggests the composition. Microstrategy faces a motivating trigger if blah 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 cash happens, and it will go through the product of the probabilities and it will like tell you to do some other steps, add some more. And I think this roughly matches. So AI thinks this is reasonable. You can ask it to review your chain and the probabilities and see if there's any reasoning that is maybe not reasonable of you to estimate. You can check the sensitivities about this tells you how much the probability would change depending on where this goes. Okay, so this checks the chain itself, what could have happened, etc. And then we can ask it to, as I said, reason through the priors. And I find this probably some of the most useful things. And we can also just chat with AI a little bit more, and it gives you suggestions about what to do and what not to do, etc. All right, so this can sometimes take a while. It goes through a lot of information for you, and so I had to just stop the video recording for a second. And now it has gone through and it can tell you the probability. So my recommendation for calibrated probabilities is at least 8%, middle 33%, and at most around 52%, right? And the reason why is blah 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 blah. It tells you some good reasoning. You can follow this or not. And so it probably asks us to adjust this lower. And now you will see that then this probability will still go even lower. You could ask it here. You can also ask it to challenge your thinking. I think in general, you should always ask someone to challenge your thinking, uh, because we all have biases. Polymarket has a bias, and the bias is, well, the bias is something that you can use as your edge and opportunity. And here in Polymarket, this allows you to make these models because you have an edge. Everyone has their own edge, right? You can now use your own experiences, your life experiences, things that are unique to you that you know and other people do not, your thoughts and your creative thinking to reason and find more models and conditions to add here to make a very good model of one of the outcomes. It doesn't have to be this market, right? But you might have some insight that other people do not, and this is your edge over here, and just the creativity and the uniqueness of you. And I will add more things here that let you graphical models and also independence and separate paths, because right now you just have one chain, right? So you would have to I will explain a little bit how you could make independent paths to and add those probabilities together to get a different aggregate estimate. But in general, this should help you at least think a little bit in how you can estimate and make a good guess on the likelihood of any of these events, right? And the difference in your guess and Polymarket, that is your edge. Obviously, you can be very, very wrong, and I'm often very, very wrong, more often than not. Um, but it's one, I think it's very fun. Two, it's beautiful if you start to think about the way that everything has some likelihood estimate, right? I mean, nothing is certain. Everything moves in ranges. The temperature today, it is probably deterministic if you would know all the factors in the universe, but none of us do. But your edge about the weather, there's markets on the weather. We can find these here, right? I mean, temperature markets. Will the highest temperature in New York City be 15% or below? And there's so many things that go into this market that or go into this probability that other people do not know. I mean, maybe the probability affects the price of Bitcoin, right? And if you think so, if you have good reason, then you can add this to your model here and you can make a better guess than other people. And you have your edge. And I think that's just interesting about all the things also for you to think about that have to happen for your life to take the turns that it has taken until now, and everything. I think it's just marvelous that things go the way that they are. And if you start to think about all the things that have to happen and the universe to just come together for me to make this video right now, and for Bitcoin to maybe go to a price that MicroStrategy will sell any Bitcoin, or something similar, right? I'm pretty sure they have some crazy MicroStrategy markets as well, and could be margin called. MicroStrategy announced Bitcoin purchases by February 3 to 9. I think they will. That should be, if it's not already happened. Okay, it has not happened, but yeah, it will. They will probably add some Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure they've bought. Okay, so now we have this, and I will try to show you the other updates on the agents. And until next time.